In this tutorial, you will finish making a parametric box for additive 3D printing or subtractive manufacturing. You will make the lid and add hex drive flathead screws to the assembly. This tutorial has a bunch of tips and tricks along the way that can help you apply the fundamentals of CAD and design to create something practical. Join along with the second part of this tutorial, and please consider liking and subscribing if you benefit at all from these tutorials. So, welcome to the Learn It channel, Lesson 11, Part 2 of 2, Design a Parametric Box with Threaded Inserts. Now, let's get on to our lid. So let's activate the lid, and we can actually hide all of our hardware. Let's hide our joints as well. Our joints are showing up here, so let's just hide them. And remember, as we've joined them, we've started the joints in quadrant 1. So this is actually rigid 1, which is over here, rigid 2, rigid 3, rigid 4, each in the respective quadrants that we have jointed them. So just a handy little tip. When we're designing, it makes things very easy, even when it comes to our labeling of the joints, the automatic labeling of them. We know exactly where those individual inserts or components are. So now let's go to lid. We've activated lid, and we'll create a sketch just on that top face. So don't select our XY plane. Why? If we select this, nothing will be inherited from our box. But we want to select the top face here so that everything on our top face, as you can see, is inherited to that sketch, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. And we can just finish our sketch. Now at this point, let's create an extrusion. And we're going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to make our lid. We're going to go the opposite direction and call this lid height. Perfect. So there's our lid. Now again, let's see if our parameters are functioning properly. So let's change our lid height to 1/2 inch. And as you can see, as our lid gets taller, well, our box gets shorter. And that's because our total height is set for 4 inches. Well, let's go to 2 inches and see what happens. There we go. Now, there's not much room in this box at all. So let's change our lid height back down to 1/4 inch. And you know what? After all, I think that this wall thickness here is probably a little bit overkill. So let's put this back down to 0.3125. There we go. Okay, so everything is looking great. Now it's saying the object that you're creating is not visible, so we can make the lid active again, and it will get rid of that alarm. So I like the shape of this box a lot more. So now what do? Well, we like to put in our countersinks. We're going to use some flat-headed screws, stainless steel, but we need to make our countersinks first. So the easiest way to do this is let's create a sketch. We've still got our lid activated. We're doing all of our design in our lid. So we'll select our top face here. Great. Now let's hide our body. And we're going to press P for project. And we'd like to project all of this geometry to the top of our lid. Let's do that. Let's make our body visible again. And you can see it's inherited now, or projected, all of that geometry to the top of our lid. Let's go OK. And as you can see, it's actually projected the center point of all of our holes. Let's finish our sketch. Now we can create our countersinks. So let's go to hole. We're just going to pick those 4 points. And let's go to countersink. Now for the hole tap type, we're going to go to clearance. Because look at what we have here. We just have some specific dimensions that we'll have to research ourselves and input. But if we go to clearance, it actually brings up the size for our fastener. So let's change this to unified. We're going to select our size as 1/4 because our threaded inserts are designed for 1/4 inch 20, and our fit is just going to be normal. We don't need to go loose or close. Let's just keep it at normal. And look at this. Our countersinks are perfectly designed. Now let's go to Objects to Cut, and let's just make sure it only says lid. If we actually had hardware highlighted and the hardware was smaller than this hole, it would actually cut into the hardware as well. So just make sure that when you go down here, Objects to Cut, we only want it to be cutting the lid, which it has selected that by default, which is perfect. Let's go OK. Now, as you can see, we have these nice countersinks all the way around our part right now. Now, one thing that I forgot was we would like to put a little lip on the inside of our lid so that it doesn't move around on us, so that it will fit nice into our box. So how do we do that? Well, let's just hide our box for a moment. And if we activate our first lid sketch, this is the one that we projected from the top of our box, which is right here. And look at what we can do. We can activate that sketch and we can go right into our offset here. And before we do that, I'd like to create another parameter. This is just going to be called relief. And we're going to make this 10 thou. This way we can change this later on. So let's create an offset and pick that line and look at what we have here. We can offset this geometry and we're just going to type in relief for our parameter. Now we can see that there's a tiny 10 thou relief that we'd like to extrude, and this is going to go to the inside of our box. So let's just extrude that right away. And remember, we could extrude the larger section, but we want to just extrude the smaller section. And let's go down. We're going to make this a formula. We're going to call it minus lid height divided by 2. Perfect. So now we've got this nice little lip on the bottom of our lid that will fit perfectly into our box. Amazing. So now that we've finished everything, let's go back to our main design and let's just make sure that we've created a joint for our lid to our box. So we can do that too by selecting joint. And we'd like to not select this face because this face is not flush with the top of our box. We like to select this part. Now, how do we get to that midpoint again? You remember, as I move my mouse over, it switches to the other face. So we want to hover over the face we want. We can click it. And there we go. We can pick the center of our face. And we can do the same thing here. Click that, select our center, and there we have it. Our box and lid are now perfectly mated together. So at this point, let's see our parameters one more time. Let's change our width to 6 inches. Perfect. Everything changes nicely there. Our depth to 3 inches. Our height to 4 inches. So everything's working really, really well. I kind of like a 6-inch width, 4-inch depth, and let's go a 2-inch height. I also like the wall thickness, the lid height, and the relief. Remember, once you end up printing this, the box and the lid, and you find that the lid is too tight in pressing into the box, well, you can just change the relief. You can make this a little bit bigger, maybe 15 thou. And that will adjust the relief on the inside of the lip, on the bottom of the lid, so that it's a little bit looser. But again, creating a parameter makes it so much easier in the future to make adjustments if needed. So now what's left? Well, we can either put our fillets into our design or we can insert our screws. Why don't we insert the screws? I'm just going to clean up everything here a little bit. Expand our hardware, make sure that it is visible, and now activate the screws. Perfect. So let's go back to McMaster and find the screws we're looking for. So let's go to screws and bolts. We're going to find our 1/4 inch 20. Perfect. And our length, well, we don't want it to be longer than 1/2 inch. So we can calculate that also by the lid height and the depth of the threaded inserts. The threaded inserts were 1/2 inch. The lid height is 1/4 inch. So we don't want it to be necessarily longer than 1/2 inch in this instance. We could do a little bit longer than 1/2 inch if we wanted. So we could select 9/16. Yeah, that's fun. Let's do that. Now, what do we want? Do we want a flat head? Do we want, well, we definitely want flat. We've created a countersink. And that's what we're looking for. So let's just scroll on down here. Do we want some stainless steel flathead? Do we want some black oxide? Well, I think the stainless steel will be great. And we can make sure that the angle is the same, 82 degrees. That is the angle of the countersink that we created. So let's do that. Let's select our part here. And we can see that this is a package of 50 for $10, stainless steel. That's great. So let's click on that. And let's download our step file. Great. So here we can just press OK. And let's do the same thing. Let's click on our part. We're going to copy, paste it. Let's just copy our other two and paste. And there we have it. So now we just have to joint these in the proper location, and we can do this by jointing them in quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4, all in order. So let's just hide our lid. Let's hide our box as well. That's fine. And our threaded inserts. Keep this nice and easy. We're going to just make our first screw visible. And now let's joint it. So let's select the top surface here and the center. Make our lid visible. And place it right there. We'll have to flip it. Amazing. Now we can also activate our box. And there we go. We can see how deep the screw goes. And this is enough. We could have actually selected a deeper screw if we wanted, or a longer screw if we wanted, but this should do the trick. So let's finish that. You don't want to see me do this whole thing, so I will speed up the process. Awesome. So that does it. Let's just activate our box so we can activate our entire assembly here. And things are looking really, really good. So remember that our screws are stainless steel and our threaded inserts are brass. So let's just change that right now. We can make our threaded inserts visible and press A. And let's just look for brass. There we go, polished brass. We can just drag and drop it to our threaded inserts. Now, if we isolate, let's just go close and isolate these. You can see that they're all brass. Let's unisolate. We can do the same thing with our screws. Let's press A and type in stainless. And let's get polished, and we can just drag and drop that right into our screws. Beautiful. So now you can see the joints are all taking over our product here. So let's just expand joints. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4 were our threaded inserts. Joint number 5 was our lid to our box. So let's just rename it lid to box. And then we have rigid 6 to rigid 9 are our threads. So we could rename these all. Well, let's just do it, and I'll speed it up for you. Great, that does it. So now let's just hide our joints so we don't see them anymore. So last but not least, let's create our fillets for our box and our lid. So let's activate our box. We can actually isolate it, get rid of all of the other components in our assembly, and let's put some nice fillets in there. So select our fillets, and we can select all those corners. Remember, we can see through our part. I can just select all of our corners as needed, and then everything on our bottom face here will be filleted as well. And let's just call this maybe 50 thou. Very nice. That's excellent. Let's do the same thing with our lid. We can isolate it. So let's fillet them. Great. And we can also put in some chamfers as well, just to make everything fit a little bit nicer, look a little bit nicer. And we can call this our relief parameter as well. There's that. And let's do the same thing with our box. Perfect. So there you have it. You've got an entire parametrically modeled box with threaded inserts, with screws. So last but not least, let's give this some color. Let's press A, and we're going to bring up maybe plastic. There we go. And I kind of like blue, so let's not do glossy. Let's maybe do the matte blue here. Great. We're just going to drag and drop for our box and our lid. And there we have it. A parametrically modeled box ready for you to 3D print. So if you'd like to know how I move the part around so easily, I actually use a 3D Connexion SpaceMouse Pro at the moment. I've also used the SpaceMouse Compact in the past and love them both. Everything is very easy to use. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can spin it just like the object is in your hand. And it makes things very easy to maneuver and to view different angles very quickly. If you're interested in buying such a product, I've listed it in the description below, along with some other products that I use that I'd like to recommend. Feel free to check them out. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've benefited from it, please smash that like button. Please consider subscribing. We'd love for you to keep joining this channel. Hopefully we can continue making tutorials like this. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, please comment below. We'd really appreciate hearing back from you. Thank you so much for tuning in and hope to see you again on the Learn It channel.